Good morning, lads, ladettes, and lassies, and welcome to the first of many Jam Lads seasonal awards, where we rank the top and worst anime of the past season to see who came out on top and who comes out on the bottom. I'll be your host for today's event, Josh the Tourist. So sit down, grab some popcorn, and let's watch some anime. By the time this video comes out, we're already going to be well into the fall season of anime for 2022, with some shows already well into their 4th or 5th and 7th by the time this is being recorded, and 10th by the time this comes out. All this to say, I'm late. But what else is new, am I right? I came up with this idea a couple weeks before the summer season ended, and instead of doing the same thing and pushing this off until fall, I decided to binge an extra 9 or so shows as fast as I could, and I still wasn't able to finish everything I had on my plan to watch list. So out of 69 shows, I was only able to watch about 19. Suffice it to say, I'm not doing that again. But you're not here to see why I'm doing this. You're here to see which anime came out on top, or if you want some spice, which anime came out on the very bottom. That's right, we're going to take a look at every anime I was able to watch over the summer and rank them Crunchyroll style. Except I'm the only one voting here. Quick disclaimer, here are the shows that I wasn't able to watch. It's a real shame that JoJo's and Made in Abyss won't be counted here because I've heard nothing but good things about those. But I am trying here, guys. I am on part 3 of JoJo right now. It's a fun ride, but part 6 of JoJo's is a while off for me. Here are the categories and here are the contestants. First we'll get the worst out of the way and then we'll get straight into the best. More will be revealed as the video goes on, so enough dilly-dallying, let's get right into this. I need my water. Worst opening and ending. With every season comes a slew of new songs. Some are catchy, some are absolute bangers, and then the rest tend to end up being pretty generic. And there's nothing wrong with the generic side of things. Sometimes all you need is a fun tune and your basic character shots to make a watchable intro, and you'll forget it as soon as the show starts. I actually had to think really hard on this category. It takes a lot for me to call something the worst of, and the title seemed a bit too cruel for most of these songs in this season. But then, I remembered. Out of all the songs that I sat through, there were 2 that grinded my gears more than any of the others. This was originally supposed to be 2 categories, but the opening and the ending for this anime were so tone-deaf, so annoyingly catchy, that it somehow won both the worst intro and outro this season. Engage Kiss. Now don't get me wrong here. These songs aren't actually bad. They're actually pretty catchy. Like, addictingly catchy. Like, I would watch this in the morning, and 10 hours later I'd try to sleep only for this song to haunt my very existence, playing that one specific part on loop in my head over and over and over and over, forcing me to toss and turn, begging for it to end so I can finally get the sweet release of sleep. So this nomination might have ended up becoming a little more personal than I originally intended. But like I said before, there's nothing necessarily wrong with these songs. It's just that the premise of Engaged Kiss is so much more than a rom-com, or should I say it really could have been so much more than a rom-com, that whenever an episode has a dramatic start or an edge of your seat finale. Let's just look at this scene for example. If you don't want any spoilers for Engaged Kiss, check out the timestamps to go to the next award.
I need you to pull the memories out of Miles.
If I do that, I might kill him.
Then use all your power and let him die. And in exchange, I'll give you every memory of Miles left inside my head.
From here on out, this is gonna be your new home, Shu. I'm so sorry, Shu.
Let's see you try and get up from this! He said, why am I?
Yeah, That wasn't edited. That was a hard cut from one of the most emotional moments in the series to that. The story about a man giving his all to clear his family's public names and sacrificing the very thing that makes him who he is just for a chance to potentially get one step closer to finding out who killed them somehow got slapped with credits that would fit right at home with Rent a Girlfriend, with the visuals to boot. Worst boy. I'm sure if I really looked, I could have found a ton of characters for this category, but most of the characters this season were pretty well handled. Well, except for these two. Ryu and Kakeru. Man, I thought this guy was an ass back in Season 1, but he gets so much worse in Season 2. I nearly lost my mind when he started waterboarding one of the students so we could potentially find out who was leading Class D. Like, bro, you're literally committing a war crime for a school competition. Where is the Geneva Convention? But there's one guy who is so much worse than Ryuen. The principal's son, Cyberpunk. I don't even remember this little shit's name, and I don't care! Because for the 2 episodes he was on screen, the writers made sure you would hate him. As if his bullcut wasn't enough, this smug asshole goes out of his way to flaunt his daddy's credit card with the high-tech cybernetics he has, only using them on people he knows can't fight back. This guy actually called David the night his mom died to tell him that this was a sign for him never to go to school again, and that his mom was probably a slut or something so she could afford to get him into school. Like, who does that? The most satisfying scene this season was probably when David uses Sandevastine to wipe the floor with this clown. Worst girl. Oh hey, Classroom of the Elite. Wasn't expecting to see you back so soon. Kyokyo Kushida. Oh my god. So a little behind the scenes here. I've always heard of Classroom of the Elite, but I never watched it until a couple months ago. So lucky me, I didn't have to wait 5 years between seasons. As soon as Season 1 ended, I went straight into Season 2. But that also meant I had no break from this bitch. Sometimes a major player, other times a blur in the background, Kushida will make herself relevant whenever she needs to. Playing the role of a sweet, innocent girl, I always felt like there was just something off about her. And it did not take long for her to accidentally reveal herself in a tantrum that would put most 5-year-olds to shame. Underneath all that sweetness was a jealous little monster that wanted nothing more than to destroy Suzune. But why? You see, the reason why she acts so sweet towards others is because she is addicted to praise. Growing up, she was always told about how great she was by her teachers and by her peers and by her parents. But just like all other things, this soon ended. So in order to keep the praise coming, she pretended to act nice to her classmates. They would thank her, tell her how great she was, compliment her, tell her their deepest secrets, tell her how cute she was, tell her how amazing she was, tell her how much they wanted to date her, and yada yada yada, all because she was smiling on the surface. But on the inside, she hated every second of it. She couldn't stand listening to their problems, even though she's the one who put herself in this position. So what does she do? Does she take a step back and reevaluate her life? Does she go to therapy? Does she talk to anyone about this? No. Are you crazy? That would mean she'd be giving up her praise. Instead, she wrote a public blog about her classmates and all of their darkest thoughts about each other. And when her classmates found out about it, she had the audacity to blame them for the whole thing. The only reason she hates Horikita so much is because they went to the same middle school, and Horikita might have heard some rumors about Kukio and her class. I was already on my last nerve with her in Season 1 with the way she would rapidly switch between her personalities, but after hearing her super anime villain origin story, I had no sympathy left for her. Season 3 looks like it promises to focus more on her, and I really wonder how they'll end up resolving her character, but for now, Kikyo will sit nicely as the worst girl of summer 2022, and most likely worst girl of whenever Season 3 comes out. Ooh, just by looking at this seasonal list, it's a no-brainer for who's winning this one, am I right? Well, that's probably if I watch Rent a Girlfriend this season. Season 1 was okay from what I remember, but with the bits and pieces of manga spoilers I've been picking up here and there, I really don't think I want to stick around for this train wreck. Sorry, Sumi, but even you're not good enough to save this one. Also, Mommy is not that bad.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Smile of the Eros Notoria, the animation. Let me start this off by saying this isn't the worst one. I just wanted to talk about this for a second. to understand the vibes it gave off, think of K-on's after-school tea time moments combined with Hogwarts, I guess. That's right, it's a magical moe with some actually really impressive animation. And if it just stayed that way, I don't think it would have made it here. But the last 5 minutes of episode 1 teased something so much darker. The tone shift is really weird, and it takes this whole thing to a great new setting. The animation gets sharper, the color palette darkens, and oh my god, are those cinematic bars? These last few 5 minutes are spread sparingly throughout the rest of the series, and we get glimpses of this darker world, promising to shatter the world of our little witches. With this new context, even the moe elements of the show seem off, as if something is just on the edge, waiting to fall. But as the time goes on, you swiftly realize that's not actually gonna happen. The last episode is the biggest offender of this, with a building climax and growing dread of both worlds colliding, only for them to not. I haven't been this confused in a while, and it's not a good confusion. I like moe, I like fantasy, but God, this name. Ars Notoria kind of fumbled the ball on both of them, giving us the bare minimum of the dark fantasy and then your typical moe moments you can find in a lot of other better shows. It genuinely felt like Ars Notoria didn't know which audience it wanted to cater to and ended up suffering by trying to please them both without knowing how to properly pay off either genre. Now, I know what you're thinking. Josh, you seem to have a lot of reasons for Ars Notoria being the worst, so if it's not that bad, then what is? That's an excellent question, my friend, and my answer is, at least I didn't drop Ars Notoria. My stepmom's daughter is my ex. Wait a minute, this looks familiar. How did I not like this show? Let me just catch you up to speed here. The main characters used to date in middle school, but they broke up for X reasons. Now in high school, their parents marry, and boom! The strangest game of relationship chicken has started, and I don't know how to feel. These are two very smart kids. So I'm told, surely they'll come up with a way to live with each other in as a sibling manner as possible.
義理の兄弟らしからぬ言動をした方が弟や妹低米になるってことか。
上がったわよ。
ん
そういう関係になっていいと思ってるの？でも血が繋がってるわけじゃないじゃん。
If she's not blood related, she's free to be dated.
How did I not like this show? Yes, they're playing arousal chicken. Yes, this is weird. Yes, this should be entertaining, but God, I was so bored. I think I made it 4 episodes in before dropping this, and I was honestly surprised with myself. I mean, the step-sibling tag in anime can lead to some of the most hilarious garbage you can imagine, but Stepmom's Daughter felt so dry. Where was the spice? It was so dry we got the aquarium date episode and I still couldn't find it in myself to care. I don't know why. There was just something about it that kept me from wanting to watch more. At least with Ars Notoria, there was a dark fantasy copium I was huffing that kept me around, but I couldn't find anything to latch onto here. This could have been the spiciest anime of the season. It could have been so bad it's good, but with everything I saw, I feel comfortable enough to give My Stepmom's Daughter is My Ex the worst anime of summer 2022. Best Boy. You know, when I was first thinking of this award, it took me a while to think of a character off the top of my head. There were a few candidates, but I only found the winner after putting them all on the list. Once I saw everyone together, I knew without a shadow of a doubt who would end up winning, even though it hurt to see characters like Yamari and Uncle go. Without further ado, our best boy of summer 22 is Alto Goldfield, Vermeil and Gold. I think this award really has to be handed down to the story for this one. While the characters like Uncle were a blast to watch because of their personality, and Yamari offered an interesting eye into the world of the night and vampires, seeing Alto accidentally summon this ancient and all-powerful demon only to slowly understand and grow a... close. Very close.
It's not fair!
Relationship with her is oddly wholesome. As the series goes on, the audience begins to wonder why Vermeil sees herself as such a horrible monster when she seems to be nothing but endearing to Alto and his friends. But once we catch a glimpse of her past, the pieces begin to fall into place all too well. Even though her actions can be justified, what she did was a truly terrifying example of her strength. But even still, Alto doesn't show a hint of fear or anger towards her, but instead gives her the love and compassion she so dearly needed for the past 200 years. It's a very satisfying story to watch unfold between these two characters, and if you haven't watched Vermilion Gold, I highly recommend that you give it a chance. Be warned, it's pretty ecchi, so maybe wait until after November if you're easily swayed, if you know what I mean. Best Girl. You know how I was just saying it was so hard to pick Best Boy because of how few candidates I could pick off the top of my head? Yeah, well, the exact opposite problem was what happened with Best Girl this season. Redheads, blondes, shotties? You like them loyal? We got a couple here just for you. Love the type of woman who can kill you? You've got those in spades.
It should have been me!
Sundays and tan girls? God, we're eating good this season. Need someone to give you never-ending joy just by seeing their smile? We've got two of them just for you.
General Kenobi.
Well, we certainly know who he's voting for. With so many options, how could I possibly narrow it down to just...
僕なら
Oh. Oh.
大丈夫だよ。
Hello.
Yeah,
Well,
but-
lads, I think we have a... What?
一応改めて聞きたいんですけど、男？
そうだよ。
No! No! No!
I mean, it's not gay as long as you don't like the d. But in all seriousness, above all the potential waifus and best girls of this season, I think there's one character that really came out on top. Especially with how she ended up affecting those closest to her. Yaeka Tsukuragi. Yeah, who would have thought it was the daughter in a father-daughter show that would end up winning? Best waifu jokes aside, the way we quickly see how impactful Yaeka is on Kirishima's life. One of the most feared in the Yakuza industry, literally being known as a demon, it's incredibly heartwarming. I think the best part about their relationship is how quickly he takes to her and how much they learn from each other. One of the most emotional moments of this season came from Yaeka's misunderstanding of her mom's coma. You really see how this kid is affected by the world around her, and it's heartbreaking to see this little girl cry over something she really doesn't understand. As the series goes on, we get to see her slowly develop, breaking out of her own shell and finally becoming friends with kids her own age. And I mean, look at her. If anyone ever heard her, I would hunt them down to the ends of the earth. So help me God. Best Isekai. Ah, yeah, now we're talking. Let's see our contender. Only 4 shows. I know I missed a couple, but this is kind of sad. Best Isekai / fantasy. Ah, much better. If I'm being honest with you, the Isekai and fantasy shows this season were kind of lacking. The Devil's a Part-Timer made its 9-year return from the grave, and nothing's really changed. Well, let's just say that the animation is holding this one back a bit. We got another season of Danmachi. I already talked about Arsentonia. Black Summoners as cookie cutter as it gets, and... is that a fully CGI battle? There's really only a handful of shows worth mentioning for this award, but I've gotta say, the one that really won me over was none other than Uncle from Another World. A masterful comedy that takes everything you know about Isekai and flips it on its head. It's a semi-reverse Isekai following a guy who's already finished his adventure. We get to learn of all of his past fumbles through the eyes of his nephew and his not-girlfriend as he tries to reintegrate himself back into the world that's moved on for nearly 20 years without him.
ゲームハードセンスはどうなった？セガは？
ソニーと任天堂が2強って感じかな。
は？セガは？
とっくに撤退したけど。
It's alright, Uncle. Gaming's only gotten better since. Watching Uncle's hijinks as he's actually able to keep his magic in the normal world is absolutely hilarious. I love being able to watch his life along with his nephew and facepalm at all the obvious hints he's completely missed in his Isekai adventure. It's a super short series with only 7 episodes with more to come soon, so if you haven't checked it out, please do. It's everything a reverse Isekai should be and so much more, and you're really doing yourself a disservice if you don't at least check it out, Isekai fan or not. Best Romance. Let's see what we got here. Hey, shoot, get out of here. Who invited you? Ah, that's perfect. All right, let's see what we got left. Best romance, drama, slice of life. You know, romance and slice of life were surprisingly some of my favorite genres in anime. They're just something so, how to put it, heartwarming about watching the mundane come to life through animation. It's something that many people around the world experience, but for some reason it's always so refreshing to watch the seasonal couples get together while I sit back in my chair and huddle up for the night. So you can guess my disappointment when we really only had a handful of shows fully centered on romance, and there weren't really enough slice of life shows that I watched this season to justify them getting their own tag. Oh, and ditto for drama, I guess. But by adding drama to this category, it just looks really funny. Like, it's mostly high school related, and then boom, Ruby. We had a tan girl maid show this season. It started off wholesome enough, but by the end of it, I was really feeling that age gap, and not in a good way. We have an idol show mixed in there for lack of a better tag, and we already know the wholesome threat that Yakuza's babysitter possesses. But I mean, I think just by looking at this list, you already know who the winner is, so let's just Call of the Night. Whoa, what a plot twist! I know it wasn't. I mean, is it really surprised that one of the most hyped adaptations going into the season won a best of category? I was first introduced to Call of the Night by Giguk when he made his manga video on it. Soon after that, an anime was announced, and here I was sitting in my chair thinking, cool, I'll just wait for that. And boy, am I glad that I waited. Reading it would have been one thing, but seeing the night come to life with an absolutely stunning soundtrack, with animation that just flawlessly captures the feel of a late night walk, it's a completely different experience. Seeing Nazuna and Yamari quickly bond with the night is such a treat. The romance between these two is a slow burn. Yamari wants to fall in love with Nazuna to become a vampire. It's an interesting twist on a romance since the basis at first isn't really the girl but what she can potentially give him. Yamari is given more options when it comes to becoming a vampire. Options that for him would be a lot better than naturally falling in love since he has trouble forming that kind of connection. But in the end, he realizes that he wouldn't want anybody but Nazuna to turn him. It's really sweet and both characters are really well done. Best action. Finally, a tag I don't have to add on more things to make it bigger. This season was absolutely jam-packed with some pretty consistent action throughout. Well, Belle, at least you tried. While Vermeil and Uncle are technically tagged with action, I wouldn't say it's the main feature of either of them. It's there, but I didn't stick around for either because of it. With those out of the way, we've got some pretty heavy hitters here. I know I was dissing on Engage Kiss earlier, but A1 put some decent work into this, especially near the last few episodes, but you can really tell that the budget ended up going to another show that they did. Vigorous Recoil really came out of nowhere and it had no right to be as good as it was. Its story and characters combined with its choreography and jaw-dropping ending really skyrocketed this anime to the top. But let's not count Ruby out of this fight yet. Many people have been saying that this Ruby reboot is missing the flair of the original, but I haven't seen the original, so I'm freed from any bias here, and man, this choreography can be so smooth! But above all else, there was one show that just had incredible action and animation to boot throughout its entire season run, and that was Cyberpunk Edgerunners. What else were you expecting? As soon as you saw it here, you knew it was gonna win. But what can I say? Through and through, you can tell Trigger put their all into this one. I mean, look at it! Even their most boring frames are a piece of art. Let's not even get started with the actual action here. Every set piece is a visual treat. So much is always happening, but you're still able to follow it. The scene is alive. Now, if we're talking about best final fight, this award would probably go to Lycoris, but the animation and fluidity throughout the whole of Cyberpunk really gave it the edge it needed here to deserve this win. Best ED. I feel like if I break down why I put all these endings here, I'll just end up spoiling who won, so let's reveal the winner and then talk about it. Call of the Night. Alright, now let's talk about everything except for the winner.
But you can't do this to me.
Black Summoner was a surprise to see here. While the anime is nothing special, the ending brings a nostalgic change of pace. You really feel like you're sitting next to a crackling fire with the boys, and what I really appreciate about it is that as the series goes on, they add more characters to the fire. It's a really nice touch when they didn't really have to do that. Vermeil and Cyberpunk both deliver powerfully somber endings with lyrics that hold so much thematic impact. They're both truly beautiful and sung to perfection. Whenever an episode of Cyberpunk ended and Let You Down began to play, the emotional tone practically isekai'd me every time. The animated music video they released is just a whole new level of pain to experience after the end of Edgerunners. I honestly feel that Vermeil's ending is truly underrated here. It just perfectly conveys Vermeil's entire life story in just 3 minutes. I'm so glad that Call of the Night is here because it would have been so hard to have chosen between these two. You know how I just said that Vermeil's song perfectly encapsulated her character? Yeah, well, go figure, the song that inspired the whole show perfectly captures the very soul of Call of the Night. Not only is this song a bop, it captures the allure of the night. If you didn't get it by the end of the first episode, then this song hammers it home. This isn't just a boy meets vampire story. Yamari isn't just falling in love with Nazuna, he's falling in love with the night itself. The visuals are a great treat too, but take the time to look down at the lyrics because you can feel the sexiness of the night just oozing out of them. Listening to this makes me just want to dance in the street in the middle of the night. Best opening. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot of the same nominees in the next few categories. In the beginning of this video, I opened it by saying that there's always a lot of generic openings that come out every season. Well, that's still true, but that only lets these openings shine even more. There's just as much fire in these openings this season than the endings. Just look at Cyberpunk over there. That voice, man, those drums, that guitar. Man, this song alone makes me want to play Cyberpunk. Call of the Night, Black Summoner, Classroom of the Elite, they all bring in an electrifying energy to the start of every episode you watch. It's impossible not to pop along when these bad boys start to play. And the same compliments I gave to the ending of Black Summoner goes to the Black Summoner OP. There's a character whose face isn't revealed until the last arc of the season, but she's in the opening. What do? They just draw her as a blank slate. It's the little touches that really make me appreciate it. And come on, this opening has no reason to smack as hard as it does, both in visuals and in song. I've listened to this way too much. And let's not even get started on Licorice Recoil's Alive. It's gotta be cheating to put your opening in your climactic battle, am I right? You know that whenever the opening plays over a scene, it's gonna go down. With all these options, it was really hard just to choose one. So let's just rip the band-aid off here before I change my mind. Call of the Night. Can you blame me? Done by the same band who did the ending, the opening of Call of the Night is made for this show. Quite literally. Everything that I said about the ending applies here. Except while the ending is a song about falling in love with the sexiness of the night, Dotun is about the night's addiction. Ugh! If this song's energy isn't addicting. Looking back at the awards, I just realized that the same show ended up winning, respectively, their best and worst openings and endings in their respective brackets.
It's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Best score. While any form of media doesn't necessarily need to have a banging soundtrack to be good, a great OST can elevate said media to points it could have never reached without it. Take a gander into your memories. I guarantee that some of the most hype and or emotional moments you've seen play out on the screen are accompanied by an equally hype or emotional soundtrack. And as someone who loves these types of soundtracks, it's hard for me to say that this season was kind of lacking in this area. While most shows had at least one track that was sufficient enough, they never ended up catching my ear. Which could be seen as a good thing. The OST did its job and stayed in the background to help enhance the scene. There are also some individual tracks in each show that really stood out, but it wasn't enough to carry the entire soundtrack. The 4 nominated shows here, though, went above and beyond with their soundtracks, especially Osumo Sasaki for The Maid I Hired Recently is Mysterious. The soundtrack has no right to be this good. I mean, it's kind of mind-baffling how beautiful it is, especially for the show it's tied to. The score really enhanced every scene it played in, no matter how sus it was. You almost forgot about the age gap simply because of its incredible composition. But I feel that there's one show this season whose score perfectly blended into the scenes it was inserted into, and that is Cyberpunk Edgerunners. Let me just give a quick shout out to Call of the Night. The soundtrack there is really good, but it's also incredibly atmospheric. Listening to these albums for this part of the video showed me that Yoshikai Dewa's Call of the Night OST was really good in the show, but some tracks had a hard time standing out on their own over the others. Tatsuya Kato and Satoshi Hano also did an incredible job composing for Parallel World Pharmacy. I'd say they gave us the best fantasy score of the season. Every track in Cyberpunk, though, is absolutely a banger. If the visuals didn't suck you into the grungy dystopia, then the music certainly did. It feels like every scene was made for this specific track. You got your funk, you got your serious, you got your emotional. And I think it's safe to say that the best track for this season was I Want to Stay at Your House. Would the ending of Cyberpunk really have been the same without it? It's just incredible work done all around by Akira Yamaoka. Best Antagonist. Now that we're in the final 4 spots, things are starting to get interesting. Well, except for this category really, because god damn, what does it take to find a good villain around here? Can't even nominate Cyberpunk with a serious face. What am I supposed to say? Ah, yes, Batman. This season's best antagonist was Society. A lot of other villains this season were mostly just some randos that were just strong enough for our heroes to beat up in an episode or two. For Mail, Pharmacy, Denmachi, Engaged Kiss, Black Summoner, they all had these cartoonishly evil villains or literal monsters for the good guys to beat up and clown on. Some of them split their seasons with 2 of them, and they're still pretty underwhelming. Ugh, I need to catch up on JoJo. My sister said to trust her on this one and to put Dio's Simp as the winner here, but I'm 3 parts behind and she didn't want to write this part of the script. Sorry, Pre-Sky, maybe next time. The detective from Call of the Night was actually a pretty interesting way to give the last few episodes some more weight. She played an interesting role in the last few here and showed that humans could actually be a threat to vampires. I really liked how she made Ko question his own dreams, but damn is she a bitch. Hollow Knight would have won this category, but there was one antagonist that I really ended up falling for this season. Majima, Lycurgus Recoil. This guy was lit. His freaking introduction, he's ambushed, set up, outgunned, outnumbered, and still managed to get away with a boom. His dynamic with Chisato is very Batman and Joker-esque. He's an agent of balance, and when he told Chisato that he'll go on whatever side is the underdog, I really do believe him. He's an intimidating force who gets shit done, and I can respect that. I think he played really well off of the lead, and his plans to expose Lycurgus were fun to watch unfold. While he might not be as deep as Cyberpunk society, Majima was a joy to watch on screen, and I've gotta say, when he was talking about why he was doing all this, he was kinda spittin'. I really enjoyed seeing his flip of the coin dynamic between himself and Chisato. Someone who's opposed to sacrificing lives and someone who will do anything in his power to achieve his goal at the risk of said lives. It was a great dynamic to have for this season, and I really hope that season 2 of Lycurgus, if that's ever made, continues this relationship between the two, or has a villain that is just as complex. Best Protagonist. Ooh, some nominees this time. Looking at some of these characters, it's gonna hurt to see only one of them win this award, but as they say, there can only be one. Let's just get this band-aid off again. David Martinez, Cyberpunk Edge Runners. Is it really fair to keep nominating Cyberpunk for anything at this point? Was it the obvious choice? Yes. Is it still the right choice? Yes. Watching David struggle through his life in Night City is simply fascinating to watch. Seeing his journey from a small kid to the head honcho of the Edge Runners is at the same time fulfilling and heartbreaking. We know deep down he's a sweet kid, just given a rotten hand in life. He's doing the best he can with what he has, and that makes the tragedy of his character all the sadder. There are so many different directions his life could have gone, but the road it ended up going down really feels like this is the only way anything could have played out. Most underrated show of the season. Now this category actually has some rules. In order to qualify, the show can't have been in the final top 10 of the summer anime seasonal ranking from the Anime Corner. Why am I using this list in particular? There's two reasons. Reason number one, it's the first list that pops up when you Google top anime of summer. Reason number two, it's the list that everyone uses to flex their favorite anime on Reddit. Even though Cyberpunk didn't make the list, the word of mouth for Edge Runners was enough to disqualify it alone. Wait, is that? Oh, you've got to be kidding! I was about to put Uncle from Another World here until I realized it's in every list before it got delayed, so just wanted to say that when Uncle comes back, do not forget about it. Honestly, with almost all of these shows, there was some things I wanted out of them that would have really pushed each over the edge for me. It's not that they're bad, but there's just some things holding some of them back for me. Black Summoner is your standard isekai adventure. There's nothing too special about it, but I'd say that there's nothing too bad about it either. I've seen some hate going towards Calvin and the homies, but I honestly don't think that it deserves that. The CGI fights are rough, yeah, but if you're isekai trash like yours truly, I think you'd find yourself having fun with this one. Parallel World Pharmacy is really good. I know this is like our third pharmacy isekai in like 3 years, which is weird that it's happened 3 times, but seeing an isekai through the eyes of a character like Pharma, who was a pharmacologist in his previous life, was a really fun angle to take the show, especially with how active he's in creating medicine for some of these really rare and terrible diseases. My only problem is when we get to the last couple of episodes where Pharma has to physically fight some guy who turned himself into an evil spirit for disease and is spreading the Black Death around to everyone. I really don't think that this series needed to have a final fight to round out the season. I was having a lot of fun seeing how Pharma struggled to contain the outbreak with his bare hands and the knowledge of advanced medicine. But the threat of the Black Death is completely neutralized after he defeats this evil spirit, and it just feels really unsatisfying and cheap, especially since it had been built up for the past 4 or so episodes. And you cannot tell me that it was not a missed opportunity to call his pharmacy in the other world the Pharmacy. It is in the name. This had to have been talked about in the manga office or like the anime studio. Why didn't they do that? That just baffles me. The pun was sitting right in their face. Shine Post was a pleasant surprise this season. I don't really tune into idol shows, but this studio is going to be doing Oshi no Ko, which I heard is amazing, so I thought, why not check this one out? If there was an award for the most relatable anime, this definitely would have won. Seeing these girls struggle to make their dreams, to get just one more person in their audience, to get the recognition of being seen, the anxiety of messing up, the thoughts of not being good enough, doing your hardest to see your friends do their best. I really felt it all. This really wasn't something I was expecting this season, and it just almost edged out the winner in this category. But I did find some things that I wish there was more of in this show. For an idol show, I found that a lot of the songs here were kind of forgettable. The animation for the dancing is great, and they fully utilized those CG models, but they just only barely used them. A lot of their performances felt like they started and ended in the blink of an eye. I don't know if it was a budget issue or a pacing thing, but if Shine Post gets a season 2, I really hope we get to see more of their performances. I guess it's time to reveal the winner here. I mean, there's only 2 shows that I haven't talked about, so the odds of you guessing it are 50-50 at this point. Herbivorous Dragon. It's just When Will Ayumu Confess was a really close contestant here. It was a really wholesome romance, and oh my god, shogi. Ever since March, I've had a soft spot for shogi, so seeing it as a romantic gimmick here was a lot of fun. The characters are adorable, and both romances are really cute. I really want to see a second season of both these anime of this season. We've finally made it to the last award, and these 4 contestants are some pretty heavy hitters. Each has won or been nominated for at least 1 award by this point. I mean, Lycida's Recoil and Call of the Night ranked 1st and 2nd on the summer 2022 charts, and deservedly so. Cyberpunk and Uncle from Another World came out of nowhere and completely floored me. Where are you keeping this stuff, Netflix? But the question is, who won in my heart? Let's open the metaphorical envelope and find out. Cyberpunk. Yeah, if it wasn't obvious, then I don't know what to tell you. I was really struggling talking about David without giving away this award, but who cares if it's obvious? This series is awesome! I had no idea what the Cyberpunk ID was about. I knew the general premise had something to do with cybernetics, Keanu Reeves, and the game was glitchy as hell, but other than that, I knew nothing about the game or its lore. It made me a bit hesitant to start Edgerunners, since I thought I'd end up being lost, but after a quick recommendation from the one and only Anime Zone himself, and finding out that Studio Trigger was behind the animation, I sat my ass down and finished Edgerunners in a day. And what a day that was. This may have won Best Action, but I think it's safe to say Edgerunners also won Best Animation. Everything about this anime is utter perfection. The characters, the environment, the music, the action, nothing is held back, and it's one of the best tragedies of all time. Step aside Shakespeare, I can care less about Romeo and Juliet. Give me David and Lucy any day of the week. The 10-episode runtime only helps tighten the story. It doesn't overstay its welcome, but Edgerunners also doesn't run into any of the rushed pitfalls a miniseries might find itself in. Beyond anything, the best part of Cyberpunk is its characters. Even with the smallest bits of screen time, every character feels like a fully fleshed out person. When people die in this show, it's not treated as shock value. You feel a distinct hole in the cast, and that's a hole that only widens as the series goes on. These deaths aren't meaningless. They're devastating. They serve a meaning to every character within the show. Every action in the series is done to make sure you understand why it's happening. Some of them could have been prevented, but the characters the deaths were associated with couldn't see any other way. It's not frustrating. You'll be yelling at your screen, no, don't do this. Go back, stop and think. But in the end, you understand where each character is coming from, and the ending leaves a haunting feeling in your heart. Just because you can achieve your dreams, it means nothing if you lost everyone that you would have wanted to share them with. Whew, what a season! When I first started on this venture, I had no idea just how long this would have taken me. The script alone is 28 pages long. I don't even want to think about what the raw edit is going to be. If you got this far, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. I had some other categories that I had for fun, like Best MILF and Best DILF of the season, but this list was getting way too long as it is. If you have any suggestions of stuff you'd like me to add or take off or change, let me know down in the comments below. Did you like how I talked about each show before I revealed who the winner was, or should I reveal who the winner is, then talk about each show, or should I just stop talking about the shows and mostly focus on who the winner is? I really liked talking about the shows. I feel like it gave the winner more weight, but I'll be listening to you guys down in the comments for the future. There's already some fall anime this season that I can't wait to talk about for the fall awards, so stay tuned for that. While you wait, you can check out some of our reactions and streams. I also wanted to get into more scripted and video essay content, so hopefully this video does well, so it motivates me to do more of that. I hope all you lads are having a great day, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Like I said before, like, subscribe, and comment down below. Tell me what your favorite animes of the season were, all your favorite categories, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!